Poor little girl shows a party photo. Her mother freezes and calls for help. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to know who's joining us on this emotional journey today. Now let's begin. The phone rang at exactly 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Eleanor Whitmore had been asleep for less than an hour when the shrill sound pierced through her quiet bedroom in Portland. At 68 years old, late-night phone calls meant only one thing: trouble. She fumbled for her glasses on the nightstand, her heart already racing. The caller ID showed a name she hadn't expected: Paul, her son. "Mom?" His voice was strained, urgent. "I need your help. I'm coming over right now." Before Eleanor could ask questions, the line went dead. 20 minutes later, headlights swept across her living room window. Eleanor stood by the door in her robe, confusion mixing with concern. Paul's car pulled into the driveway with an urgency that made gravel spray across her garden. When the car doors opened, Eleanor's breath caught. Two small figures emerged from the back seat, her granddaughters. Lily, 8 years old, stepped out first, pulling a small backpack over her shoulders. Behind her came Clara, barely 5, clutching a stuffed bear that had seen better days. Both girls wore matching dresses that looked like they'd been slept in, their hair uncombed, their eyes downcast. "Paul, what's going on?" Eleanor asked as her son rushed toward her. "I just need you to watch them for a few days, Mom. Maybe a week." His words tumbled out fast, rehearsed. "Some urgent business came up, work stuff, you understand." Eleanor looked past him to the girls standing silently by the car. Something felt terribly wrong. "Where's Vanessa? Why can't their mother—" "She's not available." Paul cut her off sharply, then softened his tone. "Look, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. You're always saying you want to spend more time with them, right? Here's your chance." The girls walked slowly toward the house, their movements careful, measured. Too measured for children. Eleanor noticed Clara flinch when Paul reached down to grab their bags from the trunk. It was subtle, but unmistakable. "Paul, we need to talk about—" "I really have to go, Mom. I'll call you tomorrow." He was already backing toward his car. "They've eaten dinner. Just put them to bed, okay?" And just like that, he was gone. Eleanor stood in her doorway with two silent granddaughters she barely knew anymore. The last time she'd seen them was Christmas, almost 10 months ago. They'd been quiet then too, but she'd chalked it up to shyness. This was different. "Well," Eleanor said softly, forcing warmth into her voice, "let's get you two settled in, shall we?" Lily nodded once, taking Clara's hand. The older girl's grip on her sister was protective, almost possessive. Eleanor led them to the guest room she'd hastily prepared. She tried to make conversation, asked about school, about their favorite foods, about anything, but received only short, polite answers. Clara said nothing at all. As she tucked them into bed, Eleanor reached out to brush hair from Clara's forehead. The little girl recoiled so sharply she nearly fell off the bed. "I'm sorry," Eleanor whispered, hands raised. "I didn't mean to startle you." Lily immediately moved between them. "She doesn't like being touched. She's just tired, Grandma." The way Lily said it, so practiced, so automatic, sent a chill down Eleanor's spine. "Of course. Well, good night then. I'm right down the hall if you need anything." Eleanor left the door cracked open and retreated to her own room. But sleep wouldn't come. She lay in the darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of children in her house. The old floorboards creaked occasionally. The heater hummed its late-night song. Then, around 2 a.m., she heard it. A scream. Muffled, desperate, terrified. Eleanor threw off her covers and ran down the hall. She burst into the guest room to find Lily sitting up in bed, wide awake and alert. Clara was nowhere visible. "Where is she?" Eleanor's voice was urgent. Lily pointed silently beneath the bed. Eleanor dropped to her knees and peered into the shadows. Two small eyes stared back at her from the darkness, filled with a fear no 5-year-old should know. "Clara, sweetheart, it's just me. You're safe here." "He's coming," Clara whispered, her voice barely audible. "I heard the car. He's coming back." "No one's coming, honey. It's just us." But Clara wouldn't move. She stayed under that bed, trembling, until finally exhaustion claimed her and she fell asleep right there on the floor. Eleanor sat back against the wall, her mind racing. She looked at Lily, who was watching her grandmother with an expression far too old for her years. "She always does this, Grandma?" Lily said quietly. "Don't worry, you get used to it." Those words landed like stones in Eleanor's chest. You get used to it. What kind of life had these children been living? As dawn approached and Eleanor finally carried sleeping Clara to the bed, one thought echoed relentlessly through her mind. Something was very, very wrong. And those few days Paul mentioned? Eleanor had a sinking feeling they were going to be much longer than anyone expected. Eleanor barely slept that night. Every creak of the house jolted her awake, listening for sounds from the guest room. When morning light finally filtered through her curtains, she felt exhausted but driven by something she couldn't name yet. As she made her way to the kitchen, memories she'd buried for decades began surfacing uninvited. Michigan, 1964. Eleanor was 7 years old, standing in her mother's pristine kitchen. Margaret Whitmore didn't believe in mess, didn't believe in noise, and certainly didn't believe in emotional displays. "Mother, I need to tell you something," young Eleanor had whispered that day, her small hands trembling. "Not now, Eleanor. I'm busy." Her mother hadn't even looked up from the dishes. "But it's important. Eleanor Louise Whitmore." Her mother's voice had turned to ice. Well-mannered girls don't interrupt, and they certainly don't make up stories for attention. But Eleanor hadn't been making up stories. She'd been trying to tell her mother that she felt scared, that something felt wrong, that she needed help understanding feelings she was too young to name. She never tried again. The coffee maker beeped, pulling Eleanor back to the present. She gripped the counter, steadying herself. Why was she thinking about this now? She'd moved past that childhood. She'd built a life, raised a son, survived a difficult marriage and an eventual divorce. She'd moved on. Hadn't she? Soft footsteps made her turn. Lily stood in the kitchen doorway, already dressed, her hair neatly combed. Behind her, Clara clung to her sister's pajama top. "Good morning, girls. Did you sleep okay?" "Yes, ma'am," Lily answered promptly. Clara said nothing, her eyes fixed on the floor. Eleanor prepared breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh orange juice. She set the table carefully, trying to create a warm, normal morning. But as the girls sat down, she noticed something unsettling. They waited. They didn't reach for the food. They sat with hands in their laps, looking at their plates, waiting for permission. "Go ahead, sweethearts. Eat." Lily began eating with careful, measured bites. Clara took a single piece of toast and nibbled at the edge like a nervous bird. "Clara, honey, don't you like eggs?" The little girl's eyes widened with something close to panic. Lily quickly intervened. "She's not very hungry in the mornings, Grandma. She'll eat more at lunch." Eleanor watched this exchange with growing unease. The way Lily protected Clara, anticipated her needs, spoke for her. It was beyond normal sibling care. It was survival behavior. After breakfast, while the girls watched cartoons in the living room, Eleanor tried calling Paul again, straight to voicemail. She tried 3 more times throughout the morning. Nothing. She decided to try reaching Vanessa, the girl's mother. Eleanor had never been close to her former daughter-in-law, but surely Vanessa would want to know where her daughters were. The number she had was disconnected. Eleanor felt her anxiety rising. She searched for Vanessa on social media and found her account. The most recent posts showed Vanessa at cafes in Paris, museums in Rome, beaches in Greece, smiling, carefree, traveling through Europe. Without her children, not a single photo of Lily or Clara, not a single mention of them. Eleanor's hands shook as she scrolled through the posts. The most recent was from just 2 days ago, Vanessa drinking wine at a vineyard in Tuscany, caption reading, "Finally living my best life." Something was deeply, fundamentally wrong here. Eleanor looked toward the living room where Lily sat rigid on the couch, one arm around Clara, who was curled against her sister like she was trying to disappear. "Girls," Eleanor said gently, entering the room, "I thought we might go for a walk today. Maybe to the park? Would you like that?" "Can we just stay here?" Lily asked quickly. "We don't want to be any trouble." "You're not trouble at all. I just thought some fresh air. We're fine here, really." There was something desperate in the way Lily said it, as if leaving the house meant danger, as if these walls were the only safe thing they knew right now. Eleanor didn't push. Instead, she spent the day trying to connect with them. She brought out old board games from when Paul was young. She made cookies. She tried to create an atmosphere of safety and normalcy. But Clara barely spoke. When she did, it was in whispers, and only to Lily. That afternoon, while Lily was in the bathroom, Eleanor noticed Clara's small backpack sitting by the couch. Something made her look inside. Not to snoop, but drawn by instinct. Inside, under a change of clothes, she found a notebook. The kind schools give to young children for drawing. Eleanor opened it with trembling hands. Page after page of crayon drawings stared back at her. Dark houses with windows like eyes, stick figures with sad faces, and in almost every picture, a large, shadowy figure looming in the background, always bigger than the others, always separate, always ominous. In one drawing, two small figures were locked inside what looked like a closet, darkness surrounding them. In another, they huddled together while the large figure stood with arms raised. There were no words. Children Clara's age couldn't write much yet, but these pictures spoke volumes that words never could. Eleanor heard the bathroom door open and quickly returned the notebook to the backpack, but she couldn't unsee those images. They burned in her mind. That evening, as Eleanor prepared dinner, Lily appeared at her elbow. "Grandma, when is Dad coming back?" "I'm not sure, sweetheart. He said a few days." Lily's face was unreadable. "Do you promise we can stay here until he comes? We won't have to go anywhere else?" "Of course you'll stay here. This is your home too. Even if..." Lily hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Even if someone says we should go somewhere else?" Eleanor knelt down to Lily's level, looking into those old eyes in that young face. "Lily, is there something you need to tell me?" For a moment, the little girl's carefully constructed composure cracked. Her lip trembled. But then she heard Clara call for her from the other room, and the mask snapped back into place. "No, Grandma. Everything's fine." But everything was not fine. That night, Eleanor gave the girls a bath, or tried to. Clara refused to get in the tub unless the bathroom door stayed wide open. When Eleanor reached to help wash her hair, Clara flinched so violently she slipped and nearly fell. "I can do it myself," Clara whispered. She was 5 years old. After putting them to bed, Eleanor stood in the hallway listening. She heard Lily's voice, soft and soothing, singing a lullaby to her little sister. The melody was sad, haunting. "Hush now, don't you cry. Tomorrow brings another try. Close your eyes and drift away. Maybe tomorrow's a better day." Eleanor pressed her hand against the wall, steadying herself as tears streamed down her face. She recognized that song. She'd made it up herself decades ago, when she was a little girl lying alone in her bed in Michigan, trying to comfort herself because no one else would. Somehow, through Paul, that melody of silent suffering had been passed down to another generation. And Eleanor realized with crushing clarity, she was watching history repeat itself. She was watching two little girls learn the same painful lessons she'd learned: how to be quiet, how to be small, how to survive instead of live. Unless she did something about it. By the third morning, Eleanor had made a decision. She needed answers, and waiting for Paul to provide them clearly wasn't working. She called the elementary school listed on the enrollment papers she'd found in Lily's backpack. After being transferred twice, she finally reached Lily's teacher, Mrs. Henderson. "Oh yes, Mrs. Whitmore, I'm so glad you called." The teacher's voice carried a tone that made Eleanor's stomach tighten. "Are you the girls' grandmother?" "Yes, they're staying with me for a while. I was hoping to talk about how they're doing in school." There was a pause. "Could you possibly come in this afternoon? I think it would be better to discuss this in person." Eleanor's heart hammered. "Is something wrong?" "Let's just say there are some concerns. Can you be here at 3 o'clock? Eleanor agreed, then spent the rest of the morning watching the girls with new intensity. Everything seemed like a clue now. The way Clara checked the locks on the doors 3 times. The way Lily positioned herself between her sister and any sudden noises. The way neither of them ever fully relaxed. At lunch, Eleanor tried a gentle approach. "Lily, how do you like your teacher this year?" "She's nice," Lily answered, her standard response to everything. "And you, Clara? Do you like your pre-kindergarten class?" Clara's spoon clattered against her bowl. She stared at it like it had betrayed her. "Clara doesn't go every day," Lily said quickly. "Sometimes she doesn't feel good." "Is that true, Clara? Do you get sick often?" The little girl nodded without looking up. but Eleanor noticed her hands gripping the edge of the table, knuckles white. That afternoon, Eleanor's neighbor Dorothy agreed to watch the girls for an hour. As Eleanor drove to the school, her mind spun with possibilities, each worse than the last. Mrs. Henderson met her in a small conference room. She was younger than Eleanor expected, with kind eyes that held something heavy. "Mrs. Whitmore, thank you for coming. First, let me say that Lily is a bright, responsible student, perhaps too responsible for her age." "What do you mean?" "She acts more like a parent than a child. She's constantly vigilant, always scanning the room. When we have fire drills, she panics until she can physically see her sister in the pre-K line outside." Eleanor's throat tightened. "And Clara?" Mrs. Henderson's expression grew more troubled. "Clara has missed 17 days of school in the past 2 months. When she is here, she's withdrawn. She doesn't participate in activities. She hides when adult men enter the classroom. Maintenance workers, the principal, even our kindly custodian who's been here 20 years. Hides. Under tables in the reading corner, once in the supply closet. It takes coaxing to get her out." Mrs. Henderson leaned forward. "Mrs. Whitmore, 3 weeks ago, we did an exercise where children drew pictures of their heroes. Clara became so distressed she couldn't breathe properly. We had to call the nurse." Eleanor felt like she was falling. "Did you contact their parents?" "We tried, multiple times. Their mother's number is disconnected. Their father..." Mrs. Henderson chose her words carefully. "Mr. Whitmore came in once. When I expressed concerns about the girl's emotional state and absences, he became defensive. He said I was overstepping, that his daughters were fine, that I was imagining problems. That doesn't sound like..." Eleanor stopped herself. She wanted to defend her son, but the words felt hollow. "There's something else?" Mrs. Henderson pulled out a folder. "Our school counselor, Ms. Rivera, would like to speak with you. She's been working with Clara." The counselor joined them moments later. Ms. Rivera was in her 40s, with a calm, professional demeanor that barely masked concern. "Mrs. Whitmore, I want to be direct with you because I believe these children need help. Clara exhibits signs of significant emotional distress. She displays hypervigilance, avoidance behaviors, and regressive tendencies." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means she's living in a constant state of fear. She's been hurt, Mrs. Whitmore. Maybe not physically. We haven't seen bruises, but emotionally, psychologically. Something in her environment makes her feel profoundly unsafe." The room seemed to tilt. "Are you saying..." "I'm saying these children need stability and protection. I'm saying that whatever situation they were living in before coming to you needs to be examined carefully." Ms. Rivera's eyes were direct, unflinching. "I'm also saying that I'm required by law to report situations where children may be at risk." Eleanor's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. "Have you made a report?" "Not yet. We were hoping to speak with a family member first. But Mrs. Whitmore, if these girls return to an unsafe environment, I will have no choice." The drive home was a blur. Eleanor's mind reeled with implications she didn't want to face. Paul was her son. She'd raised him. Yes, he'd been difficult as a teenager, moody, quick to anger. But what teenager wasn't? She'd told herself he'd outgrow it. She'd made excuses. She'd looked away, just like her own mother had looked away. When Eleanor arrived home, Dorothy met her at the door with concern written across her face. "Eleanor, something happened while you were gone. Clara had an accident. Is she hurt?" No, she spilled juice on herself. I tried to help her change clothes, but she completely fell apart. She locked herself in the bathroom and wouldn't come out until Lily talked her through the door. She kept saying, I'm sorry, over and over, like she'd done something terrible." Eleanor found the girls in the guest room. Clara sat on the bed in fresh clothes, eyes red from crying. Lily sat beside her, one protective arm around her sister's shoulders. "Clara, sweetheart, accidents happen. You didn't do anything wrong." Clara's voice was barely a whisper. "People get mad when you make messes. I'm not mad. I promise you I'm not mad." But Clara wouldn't look at her. She just curled into Lily's side, making herself as small as possible. That night, Eleanor couldn't eat dinner. She tried calling Paul again and again. By the 10th attempt, fury replaced anxiety. Where was he? Why wasn't he answering? What was he running from? At midnight, unable to sleep, Eleanor found herself standing outside the guest room door. She could hear soft crying, Clara having another nightmare, but she also heard Lily's voice, steady and soothing. "It's okay. We're at Grandma's house, remember? We're safe here. He can't get mad at us here. He can't get mad at us here." Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. She thought of the drawings, the fear, the constant vigilance, the way Clara flinched at sudden movements, the way both girls seemed to be waiting for punishment that hadn't come yet. And she thought of her own childhood, of learning to be invisible, of making herself small enough to avoid attention, of the constant, exhausting effort of not making mistakes because mistakes meant coldness, meant being ignored, meant being told she was too sensitive, too needy, too much. She'd spent 68 years telling herself her childhood had been normal, that her mother's distance was just her generation's way, that her father's absence was just his work schedule. But standing in that hallway, listening to an 8-year-old comfort a terrified 5-year-old in the dark, Eleanor finally admitted the truth she'd been avoiding her entire life. She had been that scared little girl too, and she'd somehow raised a son who was creating new scared little girls. The weight of that realization nearly brought her to her knees. Eleanor slid down the wall and sat in the hallway, tears streaming silently down her face. For the first time in decades, she let herself remember what it felt like to be 7 years old and alone, and certain that no one would ever help her. But she wasn't 7 anymore, and unlike her own mother, she had a choice. She could look away, like Margaret had. She could make excuses, justify, minimize, or she could be the adult she'd needed when she was young. Eleanor wiped her tears, stood up, and made a decision. Tomorrow she would find help. Tomorrow she would fight. Tonight she would keep watch outside this door, making sure that for at least one more night, these 2 little girls could sleep without fear. Morning arrived with gray skies that matched Eleanor's mood. She'd spent most of the night in that hallway, dozing fitfully against the wall, waking at every sound from the guest room. Her body ached as she made her way to the kitchen, but the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the turmoil in her mind. She needed to do something. But what? And how could she be sure she wasn't overreacting, seeing shadows where there were none? The doubt crept in like poison. Maybe she was projecting, just like Paul's lawyer would surely claim if this went anywhere official. Maybe her own damaged childhood was making her imagine problems that didn't exist. Eleanor's phone buzzed. Finally, Paul's name appeared on the screen. "Mom, I got your messages. Stop calling so much. You're going to worry the girls." His voice was irritated, dismissive, not concerned, not apologetic for disappearing. "Paul, we need to talk about what's going on. The school called me in yesterday. They have serious concerns." "The school?" He laughed, but it held no humor. "Let me guess. Mrs. Henderson? That woman has been on my case all year. She doesn't understand that Clara is just sensitive. She always has been. Paul, Clara hides under beds in the middle of the night. She's terrified. She has bad dreams sometimes. Kids have bad dreams. You're making this into something it's not. Then come here. Talk to me face to face. Help me understand." Silence stretched across the line. When Paul finally spoke, his tone had shifted. Softer, almost pleading. "Mom, I'm dealing with a lot right now. Work is crushing me. Vanessa abandoned us, did you know that? She just left. Took off to Europe and left me alone with 2 kids. I'm doing the best I can." Eleanor felt the familiar tug. The maternal instinct to comfort, to understand, to give him the benefit of doubt. "If you're struggling, let me help. But the girls are fine. They just need routine, discipline, structure." Vanessa was too soft on them, especially Clara. That child cries over everything. His voice hardened again. "I'm teaching them to be stronger. That's what parents do. Teaching them to be stronger." Eleanor's blood ran cold. She'd heard those exact words before, from her own mother, justifying coldness as character building. "Paul, when are you coming back?" "A few more days, maybe a week. I'll let you know. We need to discuss." But he'd already hung up. Eleanor stared at her phone, rage and helplessness warring inside her. She wanted to scream. She wanted to drive to wherever Paul was and shake him until he saw what he was doing. But most of all, she wanted to protect those 2 little girls sleeping in her guest room. The next few days passed in a strange, tense limbo. Eleanor tried to create normalcy, meals at regular times, gentle routines, bedtime stories. But she was constantly watching, documenting mentally, looking for more evidence or perhaps hoping to find proof that she was wrong. She wasn't wrong. Clara's fear was everywhere. She couldn't handle closed doors. She apologized constantly for breathing too loud, for needing help, for existing. When Eleanor accidentally dropped a pan in the kitchen, Clara dove under the table and wouldn't come out for 20 minutes. Lily's burden was equally heartbreaking. The child never complained, never asked for anything, never acted like a child. She was a miniature adult, constantly managing her sister's emotions, anticipating needs, preventing problems before they occurred. One afternoon, Eleanor's friend Dorothy came by with groceries. She was a robust woman in her 70s who spoke her mind without filter. "Eleanor, those girls are too quiet. It's not natural. Children should be noisy, messy, demanding. These two barely make a sound. They're just well-behaved." Dorothy fixed her with a knowing look. "There's well-behaved and then there's afraid. Those children are afraid. You don't know that. I raised 5 kids and have 12 grandchildren. I know what happy children look like, and I know what scared children look like." Dorothy's voice softened. "What are you going to do, Eleanor?" "I don't know. I honestly don't know." That evening, Eleanor took the girls to the park, hoping fresh air and play might ease some tension. Clara clung to Lily on the swings, refusing to pump her legs, letting gravity do all the work. When other children ran past, she pressed herself against her sister. Eleanor watched other grandmothers playing with their grandchildren, chasing them, laughing, the kids squealing with delight. The contrast was stark and painful. One grandmother, a woman about Eleanor's age, approached with a friendly smile. "Your granddaughters are beautiful. How old are they?" 8 and 5. "So well-mannered. Mine are wild things. Can't get them to sit still for a second." She laughed affectionately. "You're lucky. Lucky." Eleanor wanted to tell this woman the truth, that her granddaughter's perfect behavior was a survival strategy, that their quietness was learned fear, that there was nothing lucky about any of this. Instead, she smiled and said nothing, just like she'd learned to do as a child. That night, Eleanor heard Clara crying again, but this time, something was different. Clara wasn't having a nightmare. She was awake, talking to Lily in the dark. "I miss Mommy," Clara whispered. "Why did she leave us?" "I don't know. Grown-ups do things we don't understand." "Did we make her leave? Because I cried too much?" Eleanor's heart shattered. "No, Clara. You didn't do anything wrong. Mommy just... She needed to go away for a while." "Is Daddy going to leave us too?" A long pause. "I don't know." "Lily, are we going to live with Grandma forever?" Another pause, even longer. "Would that be so bad?" "No. Grandma's house is quiet in a good way, not the scary quiet." Eleanor pressed her hand against the wall, tears streaming down her face. She understood exactly what Clara meant. There was a difference between peaceful quiet and the terrifying quiet of waiting for something bad to happen. She'd lived that scary quiet for 18 years in Michigan. The next morning, Eleanor woke to find a note on her kitchen table. Lily's careful handwriting read, "Dear Grandma, thank you for letting us stay. We will be good. We promise. Love, Lily and Clara." They'd left it on the counter like a rent payment, like a negotiation for their continued safety. 8 and 5 years old, already believing they had to earn the right to be protected. Eleanor sat at that table for a long time, the note trembling in her hands. She thought about her mother, about Paul, about patterns that repeated across generations like curses. She thought about all the times she'd told herself she'd turned out fine, that her childhood hadn't really hurt her, that emotional distance was just how some families operated. But she hadn't turned out fine. She'd married a man who treated her with the same cold dismissal her mother had. She'd raised a son who'd somehow learned that children were problems to be managed rather than people to be cherished. And now that son was raising daughters who were learning the same painful lessons. The cycle had to stop. Eleanor picked up her phone and called Dorothy. "I need help. I need to know what my options are, legally, for the girls." "It's about time," Dorothy said firmly. "I know an attorney, family law. She's expensive, but she's good. Want me to make the call?" Eleanor looked toward the hallway where the girls were still sleeping. Two small souls who'd already learned too much about fear and nothing about safety. "Yes," Eleanor said, her voice steady for the first time in days. "Make the call." She didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know if she was strong enough for what was coming, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would not look away. Not this time. Not ever again. The attorney's name was Patricia Langford, and she agreed to meet Eleanor the following Tuesday. Dorothy offered to watch the girls again, sensing this was not a conversation for small ears. Eleanor spent the weekend in a strange state of suspended animation. Part of her felt relieved that she was finally taking action. Another part felt sick with guilt and doubt. What if she was betraying her son? What if this escalated into something that tore the family apart permanently? What if she was wrong? But then she'd look at Clara, sweet tiny Clara who apologized for breathing too loud, and the doubt would evaporate. Saturday morning brought an unexpected turn. Paul called. His voice was different this time, calmer, almost warm. "Mom, I'm sorry I've been so short with you. I know this has been hard. I really appreciate you taking care of the girls." Eleanor's guard went up immediately. "Paul, we need to talk about what happens next." "I know. I promise we'll talk soon. I should be able to pick them up by the end of next week. I've got things more sorted out now." "What things exactly?" "Work stuff, financial issues. It's boring adult problems. Nothing for you to worry about." He paused. "How are my girls doing? Are they behaving?" Something in the way he asked that question made Eleanor's skin crawl. Not, "Are they happy?" or "Are they okay?" but, "Are they behaving?" "They're very quiet, Paul." "Good, that's good. They can be difficult sometimes. Clara especially. She's always been too emotional, like Vanessa." Eleanor bit back her response. "When you come get them, I think we should all sit down together. Maybe talk to someone. A counselor." Paul's tone shifted instantly. "A counselor? Why would we need that?" "Mom, you're not listening to that school again, are you? They're overreacting, they always do." "I'm listening to my own eyes, Paul. Something isn't right. Nothing is wrong except that everyone keeps telling my daughters something is wrong with their father. Do you know how confusing that is for kids?" His voice rose. "I'm doing the best I can here. Vanessa abandoned us. I'm alone. And instead of support, I get accusations." The guilt hit Eleanor like a wave. He sounded so hurt, so overwhelmed. Maybe he really was just struggling. Maybe she was making everything worse. "Paul, I'm not accusing—" "I have to go, Mom. I'll call you in a few days." He hung up before she could respond. Eleanor stood in her kitchen, phone in hand, feeling like she'd just been manipulated but unable to pinpoint exactly how. The weekend passed slowly. Eleanor tried to give the girls experiences of simple joy. She baked cookies with them, though Clara was too nervous to crack the eggs, afraid she'd make a mess. She put on old movies, though both girls sat rigid on the couch, unable to fully relax into entertainment. On Sunday afternoon, something small but significant happened. They were in the backyard. Eleanor had found an old bubble wand in her garage. She dipped it in the solution and blew, sending iridescent bubbles floating through the air. Clara watched them drift past, her expression unchanged. But then one bubble landed on her nose and popped, and Clara laughed. It was small, barely more than a giggle, but it was real, unguarded, genuine. Lily's head snapped toward her sister, surprised. Eleanor felt tears spring to her eyes. "Do it again, Grandma," Clara said, the first spontaneous request she'd made since arriving. Eleanor blew more bubbles. Clara chased them, popping them with her fingers, laughing each time. Lily slowly joined in, and for 10 precious minutes they were just children playing in a yard. When they came inside, flushed and slightly breathless, Clara looked up at Eleanor with something new in her eyes. "Can we stay here forever?" The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. "You can stay as long as you need to, sweetheart. But Daddy's coming back, isn't he?" Lily's voice was carefully neutral, but Eleanor caught the edge of something underneath. "Fear? Resignation?" He said next week. Both girls went quiet. The lightness from moments ago evaporated instantly. That night, Clara had the worst nightmare yet. She woke up screaming so loudly that Eleanor thought someone had broken into the house. By the time Eleanor reached the room, Lily was already holding her sister, rocking her, whispering soothing words that no 8-year-old should have to know. "He was here," Clara sobbed. He was taking us away, and you couldn't stop him, Grandma. You tried, but you couldn't. Eleanor held both girls until Clara's sobs subsided into hiccups and then sleep. But Lily stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Lily, Eleanor whispered, can you tell me what you're afraid of? The little girl was quiet for so long Eleanor thought she wouldn't answer. Then, barely audible, I'm afraid of going back. Back to your dad's house? Lily nodded, still staring upward. It's not the yelling that's the worst. It's the waiting. Waiting to see if he's going to be in a good mood or a bad mood. Waiting to see if Clara will do something that makes him angry. Waiting for the door to slam, or the silence that's even scarier. Eleanor's heart broke into even smaller pieces. How long has it been like this? Since Mommy left. Before that too sometimes, but after she left, there was no one to… Lily trailed off. No one to what? No one to make it stop. Tuesday morning arrived. Eleanor left the girls with Dorothy and drove to Patricia Langford's office, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. Patricia was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to Eleanor's story without interruption, taking notes. When Eleanor finished, Patricia leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Whitmore, what you're describing sounds concerning, but I need to be honest with you about what happens if you pursue this. I'm listening. If you make a formal report or try to intervene legally, there will be an investigation. Your son will likely be angry. Your relationship with him may be damaged, possibly permanently. Are you prepared for that? Eleanor thought of Clara's laugh in the backyard, of Lily's words. There was no one to make it stop. Yes, she said firmly. I'm prepared. Patricia nodded. Good. Because if you do this halfway, if you back down when it gets hard, those children will be the ones who suffer most. Once you start protecting them, you have to see it through. What do I do first? Document everything. Keep a journal of behaviors, things they say, patterns you notice. If your son comes to take them and you have genuine concerns for their safety, you have the right to refuse, but you'll need to file immediately for emergency custody. Eleanor felt the weight of what lay ahead settle on her shoulders. One more thing, Patricia said quietly. You need to ask yourself why you didn't see this sooner. Not to blame yourself, but to understand. Because whatever kept you from seeing it before might make you doubt yourself when things get difficult. Eleanor knew the answer to that question. She'd spent a lifetime learning not to see, not to question, not to make trouble. But that ended now. Eleanor returned home to find Dorothy sitting at her kitchen table looking troubled. The girls were playing quietly in the living room. Or rather, Lily was reading while Clara colored with methodical precision, staying carefully inside the lines. What happened? Eleanor asked, seeing Dorothy's expression. Nothing happened. That's the problem. Dorothy lowered her voice. Eleanor, those children played school for 2 hours. Do you know what Clara's role was? She was the bad student who kept getting in trouble, and Lily was the strict teacher who kept punishing her. Eleanor's stomach turned. Punishing her how? Making her sit in the corner, taking away her toys, telling her she was disappointing and needed to do better. Dorothy shook her head. It wasn't normal play. It was like they were acting out something they'd lived. After Dorothy left, Eleanor sat with the girls for dinner. She'd made spaghetti, simple, child-friendly. Clara wound a single strand around her fork, then carefully cut it into tiny pieces before eating. The process took forever. Clara, honey, you don't have to cut it up so small. Clara's eyes widened. I don't want to make a mess. Making a mess is okay. That's what napkins are for. But Clara continued her painstaking method, anxiety radiating from her small body. That night, Eleanor started the journal Patricia had recommended. She wrote down everything. The nightmares, the behaviors, the fear responses, the things the girls said and didn't say. Writing it all down made it real in a way that was both clarifying and horrifying. Wednesday afternoon, Eleanor's phone rang. The school again. Mrs. Whitmore? This is Ms. Rivera. I wanted to follow up with you. How are the girls settling in? They're here with me. Still very quiet, very nervous. I see. A pause. Mrs. Whitmore, I need to be direct. Our school policy requires that we report situations where we suspect children may be experiencing ongoing distress in their home environment. I've been hesitant because the girls aren't currently in their father's home. But if they return to him, I understand. Do you? Because once a report is filed, there's no taking it back. Child Protective Services will investigate. It becomes official. Eleanor's hands trembled. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm seeing problems that aren't really there? In my 15 years as a school counselor, I've learned to trust my instincts. And right now, every instinct I have is screaming that those children are not safe with their father. Ms. Rivera's voice softened. You have those same instincts. I can hear it in your voice. Trust them. After hanging up, Eleanor found Lily in the hallway. The child had clearly been listening. Are you going to make us go back? Lily asked quietly. I don't want to, but you might have to, right? Because he's our dad. Eleanor knelt down to Lily's eye level. Lily, I need you to understand something. Being someone's parent doesn't give them the right to scare their children. It doesn't give them the right to make you feel unsafe. Lily's eyes filled with tears. The first tears Eleanor had seen from her. But he's not a bad person, Grandma. He gets so stressed. And when he's stressed, everything makes him angry. Especially Clara. She reminds him of Mom. That's not Clara's fault. I know, but he doesn't see it that way. Lily wiped her eyes quickly as if crying was forbidden. I try to keep her quiet. I try to make sure she doesn't do anything that will upset him, but I can't always stop it. The burden this child carried was crushing. 8 years old, and she'd made herself responsible for her sister's safety, for managing an adult's emotions, for preventing explosions she had no power to prevent. Lily, that shouldn't be your job. You're a child. You should be playing and learning and being silly sometimes, not protecting your sister from your own father. But if I don't, who will? The question hung between them, unanswerable. Thursday brought an unexpected development. Eleanor's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. It was a photo. Clara and Lily, taken yesterday in Eleanor's backyard during the bubble incident. Someone had been watching. The message below read, "They look happy. For now. Don't make this complicated, Mom. They're my daughters. Paul." He was having her watched, or he'd been here himself. Eleanor's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. She immediately checked all the doors and windows, her paranoia justified now. She called Patricia Langford. That's harassment, Patricia said firmly. It's also evidence of controlling behavior. Save that message. Screenshot it. This helps your case. But I'm scared. What if he just shows up and takes them? Then you call the police. You have a legitimate concern for their well-being. Document this, Eleanor. Everything he does now is building your case, or showing you how badly these children need protection. That night, Eleanor triple-checked the locks. She left her bedroom door open so she could hear any sounds from the guest room. She barely slept. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another text from Paul. We need to talk. Tomorrow, noon. The coffee shop on Maple Street. Come alone. Eleanor stared at the message. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, a manipulation. But she also knew she couldn't avoid Paul forever. She replied, I'll be there. Friday morning, Eleanor asked Dorothy to stay with the girls again. She didn't tell them where she was going, just that she had errands to run. But Lily knew. Children who grow up walking on eggshells develop a sixth sense for tension. You're going to see him, aren't you? Lily asked quietly. Eleanor couldn't lie. Yes. Are you going to let him take us? Not if I can help it. Lily nodded, then did something unexpected. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small tablet, one Eleanor hadn't seen before. If he tries to make you think you're wrong about everything, if he tries to make you doubt what you've seen. Lily took a deep breath. There are videos on here, things I recorded. I've been recording for months, just in case someone ever needed proof. Eleanor took the tablet with shaking hands. Lily, I haven't shown them to anyone, not even the school counselor. I was too scared. Lily's voice cracked. But maybe you should watch them before you see him, so you remember why you're fighting. Eleanor wanted to look immediately, but she also felt sick at the thought of what these recordings might contain. Why didn't you show these to anyone before? Because I was afraid they'd make things worse. That he'd get in trouble, and then when we came home it would be even worse. Lily's adult logic in a child's voice was heartbreaking. But we're not home anymore. And maybe now someone can finally help us. Eleanor pulled Lily into a hug. I'm going to help you, I promise, both of you. As Eleanor drove to meet Paul, the tablet sat in her purse like a bomb waiting to explode. She knew that whatever was on there would change everything. She just didn't know if she had the strength to watch it. Chapter 7. Confrontation. Eleanor sat in her car outside the coffee shop, hands gripping the steering wheel. The tablet in her purse felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She knew she should watch the videos before meeting Paul. She needed to see what Lily had been protecting all this time. But fear paralyzed her. Fear of what she'd see. Fear of having her worst suspicions confirmed. Finally, with trembling hands, she pulled out the tablet. The password was simple. 0505, Clara's birthday. Inside, there was a folder labeled, "Just in case." Eleanor's heart hammered as she opened it. The first video was dated 3 months ago. The angle was low, shaky, filmed from inside a closet with the door cracked open. She could hear Paul's voice before she saw him. "I don't want to hear excuses, Clara. You spilled it. You clean it up." "I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to." "You never mean to. But you keep doing it, don't you? Do you know how exhausting it is? How tired I am of cleaning up after you?" Eleanor watched as 5-year-old Clara, hands shaking, tried to wipe up spilled juice with paper towels. She was crying silently, terrified. "And stop crying, God, you're just like your mother. Always crying, always making everything dramatic." The video ended. Eleanor felt sick. She clicked on another one. This time, the view was from behind a couch. Paul was pacing, running his hands through his hair, his voice rising. "You two are the reason I can't get anything done, the reason I can't move forward. Your mother left because she couldn't handle you. Did you know that? She left because you were too much work." Lily's small voice. "That's not true. Don't talk back to me." Paul spun toward her. "You think you know everything? You're 8 years old. You know nothing." The camera shook. Eleanor realized Lily was crying while filming. There were more videos, 10 of them. Some were worse than others. None involved physical violence, no hitting, no visible bruises. But the emotional destruction was clear in every frame. The final video was the hardest to watch. Paul had discovered that the school had called. He was furious, paranoid, spiraling. Clara was hiding in a corner while Lily tried to calm him down. He was saying terrible things, that they were burdens, that he wished he'd never had children, that they ruined his life. Then something chilling happened. A neighbor appeared at the window, concerned by the noise. Instantly, like flipping a switch, Paul's entire demeanor changed. He smiled, waved, gently touched the girls' heads. To anyone watching from outside, he looked like a loving father having a normal evening with his daughters. The moment the neighbor left, the mask dropped. "See how easy it is?" he said coldly to the girls. "No one will ever believe you. I'm the parent everyone loves, and you're just difficult children." The video ended. Eleanor sat in her car, tears streaming down her face. She finally understood. This wasn't about bruises or broken bones. This was about breaking spirits, breaking a child's sense of safety, of worth, of reality itself. She looked at the clock. Paul would be waiting. Eleanor wiped her tears, steadied herself, and walked into the coffee shop. Paul was already there, sitting at a corner table. He looked tired but composed. When he saw Eleanor, he smiled, a smile that might have fooled her a week ago. "Hi, Mom. Thanks for coming." Eleanor sat down, her purse with the tablet held tight against her side. "We need to talk about the girls." "I know. Look, I've been thinking about everything you said. You're right. I've been overwhelmed. I probably haven't been handling things perfectly." He looked down at his coffee. "I want to do better, but I need to take them home. They need their father." "Do they, Paul?" His eyes flicked up, sharp. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've spent a week watching them jump at sudden noises, watching Clara apologize for existing, watching Lily parent her own sister because she doesn't trust any adult to keep them safe. They're adjusting. Kids are resilient. They're traumatized." The word hung between them. Paul's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're talking about. You had me for 1 hour a day growing up. You were always working, always distant. You don't get to judge my parenting." The accusation stung because it held truth. Eleanor had been distant. She'd repeated her own mother's patterns without realizing it. "You're right. I wasn't the mother I should have been, and I'm sorry for that. But Paul, that doesn't mean I'm wrong about this." "Wrong about what?" That I yell sometimes, that I'm stressed? Welcome to single parenthood, Mom. It's more than yelling. Paul's expression shifted, calculating, dangerous. Did the school put ideas in your head? Did they tell you I'm some kind of monster? Because that's what they do now. They see a single father and assume the worst. The school is concerned. I'm concerned. Most importantly, your daughters are scared. They're not scared of me. They're just confused because everyone keeps telling them something is wrong. You're creating problems that don't exist. Eleanor took a breath. I saw the videos, Paul. The color drained from his face. What videos? The ones Lily recorded. The things you said, the way you treat them. For a moment, Paul looked panicked. Then anger flooded in. She had no right. That's invasion of privacy. And whatever you think you saw, you're misunderstanding. Every parent loses their temper sometimes. This isn't losing your temper. This is systematic. This is making children believe they're worthless. Paul stood abruptly, his chair scraping loud against the floor. Other customers looked over. You have no idea what I've been through. Vanessa left. My job is a nightmare. I'm drowning, and instead of help, I get accusations. His voice dropped to something cold. You can't keep them from me. I'm their father. Legally, you have no right. I have every right if they're not safe. They're perfectly safe. You're projecting your own screwed-up childhood onto my family, just like you always do. The words were designed to hurt, and they did. But Eleanor didn't flinch. Maybe I am, she said quietly. Maybe that's exactly why I can see what's happening. Because I lived it. I know what it's like to be a child who's never quite good enough, who learns to make herself small and quiet, who grows up believing she doesn't deserve love. Her voice strengthened. I won't let that happen to them. Paul leaned across the table, his face inches from hers. You're going to regret this. Then he turned and walked out. Eleanor sat alone at the table, shaking but resolute. She pulled out her phone and called Patricia Langford. I need to file for emergency custody. Today. Right now. Did something happen? Everything happened, Eleanor said. And I'm done waiting. Patricia Langford's office became a war room. Papers spread across the desk. Affidavits, custody petitions, documentation of everything Eleanor had witnessed over the past 2 weeks. This is the point of no return, Patricia warned. Once we file, Paul will know. He'll fight back. Are you absolutely certain? Eleanor thought of Clara's drawings, of Lily's burden, of the videos that still made her sick to remember. I'm certain. They filed that afternoon. An emergency hearing was scheduled for the following week. Patricia explained that Eleanor would need to prove immediate danger to prevent Paul from taking the girls before the hearing. The videos help. The school reports help. Your testimony helps. But judges are cautious about separating children from parents. We need to be prepared for this to get ugly. How ugly? He'll attack your credibility. He'll say you're mentally unstable, that you're manipulating the children, that you have ulterior motives. He'll bring up every mistake you've ever made as a parent. Eleanor felt the weight of that. Will it work? Not if we're prepared. Not if we stay focused on what matters, those children's well-being. When Eleanor returned home, Dorothy met her at the door with worry etched on her face. Paul called the house phone 3 times. He's furious. Eleanor's stomach dropped. Did he say anything? Just that you'd regret interfering in his family. Eleanor, I'm worried. He sounded. Dorothy hesitated. Dangerous. Eleanor checked on the girls. They were in the guest room, Lily reading to Clara from a picture book. When they looked up at her, Eleanor saw the question in their eyes. Is everything okay, Grandma? Lily asked. Eleanor sat on the edge of the bed. She'd promised herself no more lies, no more pretending. I talked to your father today. It didn't go well. He's very angry with me. Clara's face went pale. Is he coming here? Not right now. But girls, I need you to know something. I'm not going to let him take you anywhere you don't feel safe. I'm working with people who can help us. Lawyers? Lily's voice was small. Yes, and the court. People whose job it is to make sure children are protected. Lily processed this, her young face showing conflict. He's going to hate you for this. I know. He's going to say you're lying. I know that too. Are you scared? Clara whispered. Eleanor looked at both girls. These two souls who'd been forced to be so much braver than any child should have to be. Yes, she admitted. I'm terrified, but being scared doesn't mean we stop doing what's right. That night, Eleanor barely slept. Every sound made her jump. She kept checking the locks, peering out windows, half expecting Paul to show up and force his way in. At 3 a.m, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're destroying our family. I hope you can live with that. Then another. They'll never forgive you for this. And another. You're going to lose. Eleanor blocked the number, hands shaking. But minutes later, texts came from a different number. Then another. Paul was using different phones, different accounts, bombarding her. She called Patricia, even though it was the middle of the night. Document every message, Patricia said immediately. Alert despite the hour. Don't respond. Don't engage. This is harassment and it helps our case. He's showing exactly why those children aren't safe. What if he shows up here? If he does, you call the police. You have every right to deny him entry. The emergency custody petition is filed. You have legal standing now. After hanging up, Eleanor went to check on the girls again. Both were sleeping, finally peaceful. Clara's hand was tucked into Lily's, even in sleep. Eleanor understood now what she was fighting for. Not just to save them, but to give them something she'd never had. An adult who chose them over keeping the peace. Someone who saw their pain and didn't look away. The cost would be high. Paul might never speak to her again. Other family members might take his side. She might lose relationships she'd had for decades. But those two sleeping girls were worth it. All of it. The weekend passed in tense anticipation. Eleanor kept the girls close, barely letting them out of her sight. They sensed something big was happening, but asked few questions, as if afraid of the answers. Sunday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Eleanor answered the door to find Marcus Chen, Dorothy's son-in-law, standing on her porch. She'd met him once before. He worked as a social worker for the county. Mrs. Whitmore, Dorothy told me what's happening. I hope you don't mind me stopping by. Eleanor invited him in, grateful but uncertain. Marcus had kind eyes and a calm presence that immediately put her at ease. I can't get officially involved since I know you personally, he explained, but I can tell you what to expect. The system can be confusing and frustrating. Families often feel lost in the process. They talked for an hour while the girls played quietly in the next room. Marcus explained procedures, timelines, what judges typically looked for in custody cases. The videos are powerful evidence, he said. But be prepared. Your son's attorney will try to discredit them. They'll say the children were coached, that the recordings were taken out of context. How do I prove they weren't? The truth has a way of showing itself. Kids who've been coached tell rehearsed stories. Kids who've lived through trauma tell messy, emotional, consistent truths. Trust that the professionals involved will see the difference. Before leaving, Marcus paused at the door. Mrs. Whitmore, what you're doing takes tremendous courage. Most grandparents look away, you're not. After he left, Eleanor felt slightly less alone. Monday morning brought more support from an unexpected source. Mrs. Henderson called. Mrs. Whitmore, I wanted you to know that I've submitted a formal report to Child Protective Services. Ms. Rivera and I both have. We're prepared to testify if needed. Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. That means everything. Those girls deserve someone fighting for them. We're glad it's you. That afternoon, Dorothy arrived with a casserole and determination written all over her face. I've been making calls, she announced. Patricia Langford is good, but she needs help. My nephew is a child psychologist. He's agreed to evaluate the girls pro bono. His assessment will carry weight in court. Dorothy, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Those babies need an army, Eleanor. Let's be their army. The psychologist, Dr. James Patterson, came by Wednesday. He spent 2 hours with the girls separately, talking, playing, observing. When he finished, he spoke with Eleanor privately. Mrs. Whitmore, I can't discuss specifics yet, but I can tell you this. Those children are exhibiting clear signs of emotional distress. Their coping mechanisms, their hypervigilance, their relationship dynamic, it all points to living in an unpredictable, emotionally unsafe environment. Will you testify to that? Absolutely. And my report will reflect my professional opinion that they need stability and protection. Each piece of support felt like armor Eleanor was gathering for the battle ahead, but she knew the hardest part was still coming. Thursday evening, Patricia called with news. Paul hired Richard Morrison. He's aggressive, expensive, and good at making parents look like victims. He's going to paint you as an interfering grandmother with boundary issues, and Paul as a struggling single father being persecuted. So what do? We stay focused. We let the evidence speak. And Eleanor? Patricia's voice softened. We remember why we're doing this. That night, unable to sleep, Eleanor found herself in the hallway outside the girls' room again. She could hear Lily's voice, soft in the darkness. Clara, if they ask you questions in court, just tell the truth. Tell them about the feelings you have. But what if Daddy gets mad? Grandma won't let him hurt us anymore. I think she's really going to protect us this time. The hope in Lily's voice, fragile but real, broke and healed Eleanor's heart simultaneously. She'd spent 68 years learning to be silent, learning that keeping peace mattered more than truth, learning that looking away was safer than confronting. But some things were worth more than safety. Some things were worth fighting for, even when you were terrified. Eleanor pressed her hand against the wall, drawing strength from the two small voices in the darkness. She would not fail them. Friday morning arrived with dark clouds promising rain. Eleanor woke to her phone ringing, Patricia's name on the screen. The hearing is Monday, 3 days. Paul's attorney is pushing hard, claiming you're causing unnecessary trauma by keeping the children from their father. Eleanor's heart sank. 3 days? That's so soon? Emergency hearings move fast. Are you ready? No, she wasn't ready, but she said, yes. After breakfast, Eleanor tried to maintain normalcy. She set the girls up with art supplies at the kitchen table while she prepared lunch. Clara was drawing again. Her pictures had started changing. The dark figures were smaller now. There were flowers appearing in the corners. Lily was writing something in a notebook, her brow furrowed in concentration. What are you working on, sweetheart? Eleanor asked. A letter to the judge. Ms. Rivera said sometimes judges like to hear from kids directly. Lily looked up, her eyes ancient in her young face. Is that okay? Of course it's okay. Eleanor's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Let me see my daughters. This has gone far enough. Then another. You're poisoning them against me. And another. I'm their father. You have no right. Eleanor blocked the numbers, but her hands shook. Paul was unraveling, and that made him unpredictable. That afternoon, while the girls napped, Dorothy came over with news. Paul showed up at the supermarket today. He saw me and tried to make a scene, saying you'd kidnapped his children, that you were mentally unstable. Thank goodness the manager knows our family. Eleanor felt her blood run cold. Is he watching the house? I don't know. But Eleanor, you need to be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. As if summoned by the conversation, Eleanor's doorbell rang. She looked through the peephole and froze. Paul stood on her porch. Eleanor's first instinct was panic. Her second was to protect the girls. She quietly checked that their bedroom door was closed, then called out through the door. Paul, you need to leave. Mom, please, I just want to talk. Just 5 minutes. His voice sounded broken, pleading. For a moment, Eleanor's resolve wavered. This was her son. She'd raised him, loved him, wanted to believe in him. Then she remembered the videos, the fear in Clara's eyes, the weight on Lily's shoulders. We can talk through the court, Paul. You need to leave now, or I'm calling the police. The police? His voice changed instantly, from pleading to cold. You'd really call the police on your own son for wanting to see my children? Paul, they're my children, not yours. You don't get to keep them from me. His shout was loud enough to wake the girls. Eleanor heard movement from the bedroom, small footsteps padding down the hall. Then Clara's terrified voice. Is that Daddy? Lily appeared, pulling her sister back. Go back to the room, Clara. Now. But Clara had frozen in the hallway, staring at the door like it might explode inward. Paul must have heard them because his voice changed again, turning sweet, manipulative. Clara, Lily, it's Daddy. I miss you so much. Please ask Grandma to let me in. I just want to hug you. Clara started shaking. Lily wrapped her arms around her sister. Don't let him in, Lily whispered. Please, Grandma. That was the moment Eleanor knew with absolute certainty she was doing the right thing. The pure terror on both girls' faces told her everything she needed to know. "Paul, I'm calling the police now. Leave immediately." "You're making a huge mistake, Mom. Huge. You think you're protecting them? You're destroying them. They'll hate you for this someday." Eleanor dialed 911 while Paul continued shouting through the door. The operator answered, and Eleanor explained the situation as calmly as she could while her hands trembled. "Ma'am, officers are on their way. Stay inside. Don't open the door." Paul must have heard her on the phone because suddenly he stopped shouting. The porch went silent. Eleanor looked through the peephole and saw him standing there, staring at the door with an expression that chilled her. Then he turned and walked away, getting in his car just as police lights appeared down the street. The officers took a report. They documented the harassment, the threats, Paul's appearance at the house. One officer, a woman named Rodriguez, spoke gently to Eleanor. "Ma'am, you did the right thing calling us. This is now on record. It will help your custody case." After the police left, Eleanor found both girls huddled together on the couch. Clara was crying silently. Lily looked shell-shocked. Eleanor sat beside them, not touching but present. "I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry you had to hear that." "He sounded so angry," Clara whispered. "He was angry, but that's not your fault. None of this is your fault." Lily looked up at Eleanor with tears streaming down her face. "Grandma, I have to show you something. The worst video. The one I was too scared to show anyone." Eleanor's heart seized. "Lily, you need to see it. Before Monday, you need to know everything." With trembling hands, Lily retrieved the tablet and pulled up a video Eleanor hadn't seen. The date was from 2 weeks ago, just days before Paul brought them here. As Eleanor watched, she saw exactly how bad things had become. She saw Paul at his worst, and the girls at their most terrified. When it ended, Eleanor pulled both girls into her arms and held them while they cried. And she made a silent vow, no matter what it cost her, these children would never go back to that house. Never. Monday morning arrived with crystalline clarity. Eleanor dressed carefully, her hands steadier than she'd expected. The girls wore the dresses Dorothy had bought them, simple, clean, appropriate for court. In the car, Clara reached for Eleanor's hand. "I'm scared." "Me too, sweetheart. But we're going to tell the truth, and the truth is powerful." The courtroom was smaller than Eleanor had imagined. Paul sat with his attorney, Richard Morrison, a man in an expensive suit with predatory eyes. When Paul saw the girls, his expression shifted to something Eleanor recognized now: performance. The caring father, wounded and confused. Judge Martha Reeves entered, a woman in her 60s with sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. The hearing began with Morrison painting Paul as a devoted single father overwhelmed by circumstance. He spoke of Vanessa's abandonment, Paul's work stress, the challenges of single parenthood. "My client isn't perfect, Your Honor, but he loves his daughters. This grandmother has inserted herself into a family situation and created problems where none existed." Then Patricia stood. "Your Honor, we have evidence that paints a very different picture." The videos played on a screen. The courtroom watched in heavy silence as Paul's voice filled the space. The anger, the cruelty, the manipulation. The footage of him instantly transforming when the neighbor appeared was particularly damning. Morrison objected repeatedly, claiming the recordings were invasive, taken out of context. But the judge watched every frame with focused attention. Mrs. Henderson testified about Clara's fear responses and Lily's premature maturity. Dr. Patterson presented his psychological evaluation, explaining the trauma indicators he'd observed. Then came the moment that changed everything. Judge Reeves asked to speak with Lily privately. The 8-year-old approached the bench, small but determined. Eleanor couldn't hear what was said, but she watched Lily's face, watched her speak with the honesty of a child who'd carried too much for too long. When Clara was called, she walked slowly to the judge. Judge Reeves lowered herself to Clara's level, speaking gently. Clara's response was barely audible but powerful in its simplicity. "I just wanted to feel safe. At Daddy's house, I always felt scared. At Grandma's house, I can breathe." Something shifted in the courtroom. Even Morrison seemed to recognize the authenticity of that statement. Judge Reeves called a brief recess. When she returned, her expression was resolved. "I've reviewed the evidence and spoken with the children. While I recognize Mr. Whitmore's rights as a father, My primary concern is the welfare of these children." She looked directly at Paul. "Mr. Whitmore, the evidence shows a pattern of emotional volatility that has created an environment of fear for your daughters." Paul started to protest, but the judge raised her hand. "I'm granting temporary custody to Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore. You will undergo mandatory psychological evaluation and parenting courses. Visitation will be supervised. We will revisit permanent custody in 6 months, contingent on your progress and the children's well-being." Paul's face went white, then red. "This is insane. You're taking my children based on a few bad moments. Everyone has bad days. Mr. Whitmore, these weren't bad days. This was a pattern. Your daughters deserve to feel safe in their own home. Until you can provide that, they will remain with their grandmother." Morrison leaned in, whispering urgently to Paul, who looked like he might explode, but he stayed silent. As they left the courtroom, Paul's eyes met Eleanor's. The hatred there was palpable. In that moment, Eleanor knew her relationship with her son might be permanently broken. But when she looked down at Clara and Lily, Clara holding her hand without flinching, Lily's shoulders relaxed for the first time in months, Eleanor knew she'd made the right choice. Sometimes love means protecting, even when protection comes at the highest personal cost. 3 months later, Eleanor's house had transformed. The guest room was now permanently the girls' room, decorated with posters they'd chosen and stuffed animals that actually got played with. Laughter, real, uninhibited laughter, filled the hallways. Clara was thriving in therapy, learning to be a child again. She still had nightmares occasionally, but they were becoming less frequent. She'd started ballet classes and talked constantly about her recital. Lily was slowly releasing the burden of parenthood she'd carried. She'd joined a soccer team and made friends who invited her for sleepovers. Normal 8-year-old activities she'd never experienced before. Paul had completed 1 evaluation and started therapy, but he'd missed 2 supervised visitation appointments. Eleanor didn't know if he'd ever truly change or if their relationship would ever heal. The grief of losing her son was real and painful, but she'd gained something more precious. She'd broken a cycle that had haunted 3 generations. One evening, as Eleanor tucked the girls into bed, Clara looked up at her with clear, bright eyes. "Grandma, do you remember when you asked what I wanted to be when I grow up? I remember. I want to be like you, someone who protects people who can't protect themselves." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "You already are, sweetheart. You already are." Later, sitting in her living room with tea and silence, Eleanor thought about the question she'd asked herself weeks ago. How many poor little girls must exist before someone chooses to protect them? The answer had been inside her all along. It only takes one person refusing to look away, one voice breaking the silence, one grandmother choosing courage over comfort. She'd finally saved the scared little girl she'd been by saving 2 others.